None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. That's a quote from German writer Goethe, and although he lived a few hundred years before the rise of technology and never could have predicted where we are today, I feel like this quote perfectly describes the grip that technology has on our modern lives. Our first encounters with technology are usually pretty positive. I bet you still remember your first computer, your first game, your first device. It probably felt pretty exciting, maybe even powerful, like a new kind of freedom.
You've got mail.
But what if that moment wasn't just the beginning of connection, but the beginning of control? A Trojan horse dressed up as an angry bird, or if you're a bit older, a Neopet, or maybe even Steve. And while we were happily distracted, technology quietly embedded itself into every aspect of our lives. I remember getting my first computer, a compact Precariat. It was a birthday gift in the early 2000s, and at the time I had only a vague idea of what this machine could be. When I unwrapped the computer, the adults in the room all seemed very impressed, so my 10-year-old reasoning deduced that this big empty screen must be something good, something powerful. I wondered, how could this device seemingly spawn itself out of nowhere and suddenly acquire its own room in our home? The computer felt helpful. It felt hopeful. It felt like a trusted friend. I could download hundreds of songs onto my MP3 player. I could talk to my friends without my parents picking up on the other phone line. It very quickly started to feel like an extension of myself. Little did I know that one day this technology would be used to spread hate speech and propaganda, track our every move not for safety but for profit, use our behavior to train algorithms, saturate our feeds with targeted ads, and decide how far our digital voice could reach or what we're allowed to see. I'd like to think I was a pretty conscious and curious kid, but even if you told me what would eventually happen, I probably wouldn't have cared. I was too busy trying to figure out where in the world is Carmen Sandiego. And that's exactly how it happened. Technology didn't invade our lives by force. It earned our trust, offered us convenience and freedom, and in return we gave it our time, attention, and data. But before we go deeper, I want to hear from you in the comments. How has your relationship with technology evolved over time? And does any part of it feel out of your control? And if you're interested in more conversations about psychology, self-development, and modern life, hit subscribe. This channel is about helping you wake up, both to the system and to yourself. So this video is about a shift that happened slowly and then seemingly all at once, a shift that is still unfolding in front of our eyes. It's about how technology didn't just change parts of our lives, it quietly replaced them. GPS replaced paper maps. Streaming overtook DVDs and CDs. AI now writes emails, captions, even code. Bit by bit, the infrastructure of daily life has moved out of our hands and into the hands of platforms. Now, it's not just how we watch or listen, it's how we work, shop, build businesses, and exist. What began as capitalism, a system that's flawed but familiar, has become quietly reshaped into something else entirely. A system not run by governments or banks, but by platforms, data, and algorithms. Meet Technofeudalism, a return to lords and tenants. Only now the kings are CEOs of apps and platforms, and the land is made of code. Saying that Technofeudalism is replacing capitalism is a big statement, but one that we should be aware of, because if you're watching this, you're already in the system. Chances are, the very platform on which you're watching this is collecting your data and influencing your purchases with targeted ads. So what exactly is technofeudalism? It's a relatively new term, one that I only recently learned about, but I found it to be quite fascinating and worthy of a video. Keep in mind, most of what I'm explaining comes from this book by economist Yanis Varoufakis. And I'll link it down below if you'd like to learn more. And if you purchase it from the link, the techno overlords at Amazon will grant me some small compensation, probably in the form of peanuts, but I'm grateful nonetheless. So, technofeudalism. The term was coined by Varoufakis to describe how modern tech companies have taken on the role of digital feudal lords. Varoufakis argues that capitalism isn't evolving into something freer, it's collapsing into something older. Not socialism, not anarchism, but feudalism. Just digitized. In case you slept through history class like I did, let's do a quick refresher. Feudalism was the dominant social and economic model in Europe from around the 9th to the 15th centuries. It was simple. Kings owned the land, lords managed it, vassals defended it, and peasants worked it. Peasants got housing and protection, but no ownership. And a big chunk of what they produced went up the chain. Let me break it down in a more modern, techno-feudalistic context. Think about Uber. Uber drivers would be the peasants, they do the actual work. Coders and engineers are the vassals, they create the digital platform. Venture capitalists and shareholders are the lords, while tech CEOs and owners are the kings, reaping most of the rewards of the labor done by those down below them. The work still flows up, so the wealth still stays at the top. Yet, in old feudalism, you got something back. Protection, community, predictability. Today, you get none of that. The safety net is gone. Instead of a castle to confine you, instead, you're bound by terms of service. And at almost any moment, a platform can terminate your account or ban you from their services. In our modern world, the tech overlords don't just participate in markets, they control the entire terrain. They decide what gets seen, what gets sold, and what gets buried. And that includes your search results, your newsfeed, your income streams, your identity. So what does that mean for everyday people? It means you don't need to be a YouTuber or gig worker to be caught in the system. You scroll and the algorithm decides what you see. You shop and small businesses pay to appear in front of you. You work remote and your keystrokes are tracked. You stream a show and it trains your future recommendations. You use maps, cloud storage, calendars, all hosted on someone else's digital land. Even take this video, for example. Based on your behavior while watching, the algorithm is determining whether or not it should reach a wider audience. If you like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, it will give it a boost in the algorithm. If you watch all the way to the end, the algorithm will prioritize this video and show it to more people. Probably not because it believes in the content, but because a more engaging long-form video means it can ultimately play more ads and produce more capital for the platform. It's virtually impossible not to participate in the techno-feudalistic landscape today. And the defining feature is that you're not the owner. You're a user, a tenant in a digital estate owned by someone else. And the systems that run these estates are destined to extract. Take pricing algorithms, for example. Some airline sites show higher fares to iPhone users because they assume you'll pay more. Uber may charge you more if your phone battery is low because they know you're desperate to book a ride. These systems don't wait for your behavior. They predict it, and they profit. In the old world, peasants worked land they didn't own. In this one, we feed platforms with our data, attention, and labor. But we own none of it. So who really owns the internet? Ownership in the old world was tangible. You could fence it, defend it, tax it. You could walk its borders, you could fight wars over it. Ownership was visible and power was physical. But today, the most valuable land on Earth isn't land at all. Power today lies in mostly invisible infrastructure. Servers, code, cloud storage, algorithms, attention. Companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, and Apple don't just participate in the economy. They own the roads it runs on. They use their ownership of the invisible infrastructure to control modern life. They control access, visibility, monetization, communication, and distribution. They do it globally, from a central server room. That's what makes this so different from traditional feudalism. In the past, a king could only rule as far as his horse could ride. But in the age of techno-feudalism, the land is infinite. This is what economist Yanis Varoufakis calls a shift from capitalism to cloudalism, a new system where platforms don't just own the products, they own the terrain. And if you want to survive in the system, if you want to participate in the digital world, you pay the toll. YouTube profits off ads for monetization and non-monetized YouTubers. Developers pay Apple 30% of every app purchase. Small businesses pay Amazon just to appear in search, and more if they want to buy the buy box and use Prime to ship their products. Even nonprofits have to pay Facebook to boost posts to reach the very people who already follow them. We don't own our own audience, the platform does. We're just leasing visibility. On the surface, it looks like the internet has made it easier than ever to start a business, and in some ways that's true. Anyone can set up shop, launch a product, and reach the world. But every path forward has a toll booth. You may be free to open your shop, but you're still renting the street it's on. But unlike a physical location where you have more choice of who to rent from, in the digital space you need to position your business where people can find you, which usually means using one of the major digital platforms. In the past, businesses could advertise in a variety of places, but now it's mostly digital. It's become less of a free market and more of a permission system. Even after you pay to run ads, the platforms have to approve them, and they can stop the ads at any time without refunding your investment. It used to be that businesses had real options: local newspapers, radio ads, flyers and billboards, community sponsorships, word of mouth in tight-knit towns. But now, 90% of your reach comes down to a handful of digital platforms. Want to be seen? You run Facebook ads, you buy space on Google, you try to hack the TikTok algorithm, or you pay someone who knows how. You could even sponsor a YouTuber. The tools have changed, but the power structure hasn't. And these new tools allow for new forms of psychological control in the world of digital serfdom. In the old world, lords ruled with armies. In the new world, they rule with algorithms. There are no swords, chains, or prisons, just push notifications, nudges, and an infinite scroll. Technofeudalism doesn't need to force your labor. It rewards compliance. It learns your patterns, your cravings, your fatigue, and then feeds them back to you in ways that keep you engaged. Today, we don't just have workers. We have a new form of labor called the Precariat, a term coined by economist Gary Standing. It stands for a growing class of people with no job security, no benefits, and no guaranteed income, essentially gig workers. They drift between gigs, apps, and unstable platforms, always hustling and never settled. Capitalism would call them freelancers or independent contractors. But in this system, they're more like digital peasants. I know because I've done it. I've done Amazon Flex deliveries, the people who show up and deliver your Amazon packages in their own car. That was me, and hopefully people will continue to watch this channel so I don't have to go back. And at first glance, delivering for Amazon looked like freedom. Pick your own hours, be your own boss, use your own car. Who wouldn't want that? But under the surface, there's a system designed to maximize Amazon's profits while minimizing their responsibility. Since you're not an employee, you get no health insurance, no paid time off, no reimbursement for gas or car maintenance. Essentially, you take on all the risk while Amazon keeps all the profit. And the app that you use for deliveries can be used in an exploitative manner that offsets any real responsibility. You could spend hours refreshing the app just to catch a shift, all unpaid labor before the real work actually even begins. At least a feudal peasant could go to sleep at night not worried about whether or not he'd have work the next day. And once you're out on deliveries, the routes can be completely unreasonable. Sometimes by the time you reach the end of your paid shift, you still have leftover packages, and you realize it's easier to finish delivering them than to go back to the warehouse and return the final packages. So you keep going, even if you're no longer being paid to finish the final deliveries. And in turn, Amazon receives free labor. And occasionally, you'll be given leftover packages from drivers who didn't finish their routes earlier in the day. And even though those packages were already marked late before you were assigned them, your rating still takes a hit for delivering a package late. Uber plays the same game. Drivers report that the app tracks their behavior and learns if they have a daily earning goal. The app then serves them smaller fees to keep them on the app and working. Then, there's Amazon's Mechanical Turk, a crowdsourcing platform where hundreds of people around the world perform small tasks for even smaller pay. These aren't jobs with titles or names, just fragments of labor, often the back end of automation. You might be asked to tag objects in blurry photos, identify hate speech in tweets, describe messy handwriting, answer questions to train AI models, or rate feet pics to help an algorithm learn preferences. Most of these tasks pay just a few cents, some take seconds, others minutes, and they're usually completed by people who need flexible income: gig workers, students, even the unemployed in countries with limited job access. But here's the catch. The tasks are tedious, the rules are opaque, and the workers have no support, no benefits, and almost no resources if they're underpaid or rejected. Only the employer has the ability to accept or deny the work, and if it's denied, the work goes unpaid without explanation. And because of its invisible nature, it's mostly unregulated and barely recognized. In the world of technofeudalism, you're always working. And when it doesn't feel like work, posting, messaging, sharing, scrolling, every interaction is data. Every moment online is value extraction. You're working for free to train the algorithms that will further control user behavior in the future. And the scariest part, it doesn't feel like exploitation. It feels like The internet. You think you're free because there's no time card, but your shift is your attention. And it gets deeper, because now AI isn't just replacing jobs, it's starting to replace agency. It drafts our emails, curates our playlists, writes our essays, suggests how to feel, how to love, how to explain ourselves. It doesn't just automate, it starts to define. And the more we lean on it, the less we sharpen our own judgment, the less we think, the less we remember how to be human. There's even a rising trend of people forming romantic relationships with AI chatbots. So this new system isn't just collecting our data, it's influencing our lives. And the longer you're online, the richer they become. And in modern feudalism, unlike with land, the digital territory never runs out, which means the wealth of the new kings can grow infinitely, while yours stays fixed or shrinks. Is this the end of capitalism, or just its final form? At first glance, technofeudalism looks like something new. No factories, no storefronts, no assembly lines, just code, platforms, data. And maybe it's not a departure, maybe it's a final evolution of capitalism. A system that no longer relies on production, but thrives on ownership without labor. Traditional capitalism rewarded those who built, who innovated. But today, the biggest players don't build much of anything. They just own the infrastructure. They extract rent. They scale infinitely. And it's why author Cory Doctorow says capitalists hate capitalism. Because capitalism involves risk, competition, the possibility of loss. But what the richest want and now have is feudal stability. A model where platforms replace marketplaces, where gatekeeping replaces innovation, where rent flows up and power never has to move. Apple doesn't care who makes the app as long as they collect their 30%. Amazon doesn't care who sells as long as they control the search results. This isn't a free market, it's a mall where you need permission to exist. And the only winners are the ones who own the mall. We still call it capitalism, but it's just old school branding. It's ownership masquerading as opportunity. It's a slot machine where the house never loses. So what now? We can't log off entirely or just delete our entire digital world. But that doesn't mean we're powerless. Once you understand how the system works, you can start to choose how you want to use it. You can stop chasing validation from algorithms, decide what you actually want to use these platforms for. Growing a business, connecting with friends, even if the answer is just to unwind by consuming brain rot. At least you have a clear understanding on your part of your objective. And anytime the algorithms try to take you off your path, you can decide to do otherwise. You can understand that the main objective of many of these platforms is to keep you on the platform, even if it means showing you triggering or exaggerated content. Understand that what you see on social media isn't reality. You may see a whole bunch of people living extravagant lifestyles, but that's nowhere near the life of the average person. Social media shows you these things to tap into your insecurities. It tries to make you feel like you're lacking in one way or another. It can then try to sell you something to fill that void. Just say no. Don't let it sell you things you don't need. Slowly reclaim your time. Make a conscious decision of where you want your time to go, and anytime you get stuck in a rabbit hole, redirect. Post only what brings value to yourself and others, not to companies or algorithms. Learn to be conscious and intentional. Use the internet to better your life, not to avoid your life. Question trends, resist the noise, carefully choose your news sources. You're not your feed, you're not your follower count, you're not a product, you're a human being with a sense of self. Don't let them take that away from you. If you can't escape the system, you can at least wake up inside it. We can create and consume consciously, we can shop mindfully, we can continue to be human beings in a world that becomes less human and more digital every day. If you're looking for more related content, check out my last video on consumerism, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being here, and I really hope to see you in the next video.